Jamaica. Today, I want to talk about two Jamaican men who were deported from America, sent thousands of miles away to a small country in Africa, and then offered something that many stranded people would probably consider a lifeline. The Jamaican government offered to bring them home, and they said no. They choose to stay in Eswatini, a small kingdom in southern Africa, rather than return to the country where they were born. And when I first read that, I had one reaction. Why? Because think about what happened here. America had already deported them. Their families were reportedly in the United States, but the United States had already decided that they could not remain there. They were sent to Eswatini, a country where, as far as the public record tells us, they had no meaningful roots. Jamaica became involved. Our government made contact, consular assistance was offered, and Jamaican authorities told the men that Jamaica was prepared to facilitate their return. I would imagine buying the tickets as well. In other words, their country said, come home. And they simply declined. Now, before we get into the legal complexities, and there's one very important legal complication that I discovered, I want to stay with this for now, because I want to know what your instinctive reaction is. If you were born in Jamaica, if you had lived in America for decades, if America deported you and you found yourself sitting in a small African kingdom thousands of miles from your family, and your Jamaican government contacted you and said, we are ready to help bring you back to Jamaica, would you come? I think I would. Even if I desperately wanted to return to my family in America, I think I would say, take me home first. Let me stand on Jamaican soil. Let me get somewhere where I'm a citizen. Let me be somewhere where I know the culture, where I understand the society, where my government recognizes me as one of its own. And then, if there is a legitimate legal pathway back to my family in America, I will pursue it from Jamaica. That's my instinct. But these men apparently saw it differently. And that raises a question in my head, much deeper than deportation. What exactly is Jamaica to a Jamaican who has spent most of his life somewhere else? Because one of these men is 64-year-old Jamaican pastor Junior Alves, who reportedly lived in the United States for approximately 44 years. Now, think about that. If you leave Jamaica at 20 and spend the next 44 years somewhere else, which country contains most of your memories? America, where your relationships are? America, where your family is? In this case, this is where he has lived for a long time. So I understand why he wants to go back. That part isn't difficult for me. The difficult part is this. America isn't where he was. He was in Eswatini. So if America has already deported you and Jamaica is offering you the privilege to come back home, why not come to Jamaica and continue whatever fight you have from there? Why choose uncertainty in Eswatini over certainty in Jamaica? And that is where patriotism centers this conversation. not the performative kind of patriotism I'm talking about, right? Where you put a Jamaican flag on your Facebook page. I am not talking about shouting Jamaica to the world. I'm not talking about cooking jerk chicken in Florida while Bob Marley is playing in the background. I am asking something much deeper. And the question is this: what does being Jamaican actually mean when Jamaica is a country opening the door for you? Because we love to say, once a Jamaican, always a Jamaican. But surely that has to mean more than ancestry. Surely there is something powerful about knowing that after 40 years away, your country can still say, you belong here. You have made some mistakes. You may have violated another country's immigration laws. You may have overstayed. Your legal situation may be enormously complicated. But your birth country isn't saying, you left us 44 years ago. Deal with it yourself. Jamaica is actually saying, you are still Jamaican. And because you're Jamaican, we're prepared to help you come home. And on that point, I think the Jamaican government deserves credit. It's not partisan credit I'm talking about. I am saying that the fact of the matter is, the government, the Jamaican government, did something that they ought to have done. Because imagine the opposite. Imagine America deported 3 Jamaicans to Africa, and Jamaica did absolutely nothing. No diplomatic intervention, no consular contact, no attempt to determine their circumstances, no offer of repatriation. What would you say? I know what some would say on this channel. Where is Jamaica? How can Jamaican citizens be transported thousands of miles away and their government not intervene? We would be furious, and we would have a right to be furious. But Jamaica did intervene. So fairness requires us to say, on this occasion, Jamaica did what we expected a country to do for its citizen, or in this case, citizens. And that's why the refusal is so intriguing, because the government did its part. The citizens still said no. Now, some Jamaicans will hear that and immediately use a very strong word: betrayal. Is it? Does a Jamaican owe something to Jamaica simply because Jamaica is his birthplace? If your country reaches across the world to help you and you say no, I don't want to return there, are you rejecting Jamaica? Some people will say absolutely yes. They will say Jamaica is good enough to defend you, but not good enough for you to live in. Others will say that's nonsense because he has family in America. Now, of course, he wants to go back to his family. I understand that. But again, he wasn't in America. That's the part I keep returning to. If the choice were Jamaica or your children in America, I wouldn't even be making this video. Most parents would choose their children. But the immediate choice appears to have been something closer to remain in Eswatini while hoping to get back to America, or return to Jamaica while continuing to hope that you can eventually reunite with your family. And initially I thought, why on earth wouldn't you choose Jamaica? But then I discovered something about Junior Alves in particular, and that complicates the question considerably. Now, before anybody calls this man unpatriotic, before anybody calls him ungrateful, and certainly before anybody calls him a traitor, you need to know this. Junior Alves reportedly had previously obtained protection in the United States under the Convention Against Torture. And specifically, that protection reportedly prevented his removal to Jamaica. Now, with that information, this story looks a bit different because protection under the Convention Against Torture is serious. In simple terms, a person can obtain protection from being removed to a particular country if the American immigration system determines that the required legal standard concerning the risk of torture has been met. That does not necessarily mean America must allow the person to live there permanently. And very importantly, it does not necessarily prevent America from removing that person to another country. And that may help explain how somebody who reportedly had protection against being sent to Jamaica could nevertheless end up in Eswatini. But now think about the position Alves may find himself in. On one hand, Jamaica says come home. On the other, his American immigration history apparently includes a, should I say, legal position that he should not be returned to Jamaica. So now I have a very, should I say, different question. Could voluntarily returning to Jamaica undermine his legal position? Could America eventually say, you previously argued that returning to Jamaica exposed you to a serious risk, but when Jamaica offered repatriation, you voluntarily went back? Would that matter in whatever legal proceedings he may still be pursuing? Another question popped up in my mind just now. Would remaining outside Jamaica preserve an argument that voluntarily returning to Jamaica could weaken his position? I don't know, and that distinction is important. I have not found any evidence establishing that this is Alves' reason for declining Jamaica's offer. And we should not pretend we know what his lawyers are telling him. We don't know their legal strategy. But you know what? The Convention Against Torture protection does give him, I would imagine, some thought. And we cannot judge his decision exactly the same way as we do others. But where this story becomes fascinating is that the question still remains. Your country came for you and you rejected it. Is that what you should have done? Or is there more to this? I don't know. Maybe staying in Eswatini isn't a statement that Eswatini is better than Jamaica. Okay, that's what I am struggling with. Maybe it isn't rejection. Maybe it isn't shame. Maybe it isn't even betrayal. Maybe there's a legal calculation involved. I'm choosing to think that way. And maybe there isn't. We simply don't know enough yet. But even after acknowledging that legal complication, I still think there's a deeper question worth discussing. What does Jamaica mean to these men? Because legal strategy may explain why someone does not return. It doesn't completely answer the emotional question of where that person believes he belongs. And this is particularly fascinating in the case of someone who has spent 44 years in America. And at what point does the country where you live become home and the country where you were born become your homeland? And those aren't necessarily the same thing. Maybe Jamaica remains part of your identity. You still eat Jamaican food. You still follow Jamaican news. You still speak with the accent. You still tell people I am Jamaican. But when somebody says, go home, your mind doesn't picture Kingston anymore. It pictures Florida. That's psychologically understandable. But I think it should make Jamaica reflect, because sometimes Jamaicans abroad talk about Jamaica as though the country they left has been frozen in time, and it clearly hasn't. If someone left Jamaica 44 years ago, we're talking about the early 1980s. Jamaica today is substantially different from the 1980s. Technology has transformed everyday life. Telecommunications have transformed the way we work and communicate. Infrastructure has changed significantly. Banking has changed. Business has changed, or the way we do business. Transportation has changed. Jamaica has, I want to say, developed significantly. Is Jamaica perfect? Of course not. Crime remains a serious concern, although it's getting better. Healthcare has serious challenges, and the cost of living is difficult. And there's inequality. Everywhere you go, there is. And there is bureaucracy. The government is working desperately to improve these things. Jamaica is simply not the same. It's not some hopeless place where being returned means your life is automatically over. But I can't get into these men, in the heads of these men, right? Because there could be another psychological element. And I wonder if shame has anything to do with it. And I don't know that either, but think about how Jamaicans traditionally view migration. Somebody goes to foreign, as we like to say, and they succeed. They send money, they send the barrel, maybe they build a house, they come back at Christmas. Going to foreign becomes associated with upward mobility, success, and achievement. So what happens when somebody comes back, not because he chose to retire, but because he was deported? Does returning feel like failure? Does the word deportee carry such stigma, and it does, that some Jamaicans would rather remain somewhere unfamiliar than face that label at home? Those are questions worth discussing, I may say, and something that Jamaicans living abroad without legal status consider, I would imagine, frequently. There are more of us outside of Jamaica, I keep saying, right, than inside Jamaica. As a matter of fact, I look at some stats recently. Total undocumented people living in America that are Jamaicans, about 57,500, and that's a small estimate, I think. It's not an official head count. But it gives us some idea of the scale. And across America's entire unauthorized immigrant population, approximately 45% had already been in the United States for 20 years or more, the statistics show. And that matters because undocumented immigration isn't always somebody who crossed a border 6 months ago. We are seeing clearly that some people have been living their lives in America undocumented for decades. They have children, mortgages, they have a church membership, they work, they have grandchildren, they are part of a community. And yet beneath all of it remains an uncomfortable legal vulnerability. The country that feels like home may one day tell you, you cannot remain. And then what? And so for a Jamaican, there remains another country, Jamaica. And this is why I think our government's response in this case matters. It affirms something important. Jamaican citizenship still means you have somewhere you belong. But here's the irony. At the same time, Jamaica is saying you can come home. Jamaica itself is facing a demographic challenge, and maybe that's why coming home is very important. Approximately 28,900 babies were born in Jamaica in 2025. Approximately 21,300 people died in 2025. But that should have produced a natural population growth of approximately 7,600 people. But migration removed approximately 7,000. So Jamaica's population grew by a mere 600 people last year. Think about that. Almost the entire natural increase of the population was erased by immigration. So this conversation about belonging isn't merely sentimental. Jamaica is a small country losing people. But I don't want to turn these two men into symbols of some campaign to bring everybody home. Their circumstances are unique. Their families are abroad. Their legal circumstances are complicated. And one man's convention against torture history makes his situation particularly unusual. But I keep coming back to the human question. Imagine being Junior Alves. You are 64. You have spent approximately 44 years in America. And the people you love are there. America removes you and you end up thousands of miles away. Then Jamaica says, we can bring you home. But somewhere in your immigration history is a legal protection based specifically not on not being returned to Jamaica. What do? Do you accept Jamaica's offer? Do you come home, get settled, and continue whatever legitimate attempt you can make to reunite with your family from Jamaica? Or do you remain where you are because you believe, or your lawyers believe, that returning to Jamaica could close a door you are desperately trying to keep open? I don't know the answer. I clearly don't. And maybe that's the lesson of this entire story. My first reaction tells me something about patriotism. But then there's a second reaction that tells me something about compassion. And the facts force us to hold both at the same time. I can believe Jamaica did the right thing, and I do. I can be proud that Jamaica did not forget its citizens. I can believe that there is something powerful about your birth country saying, come home. And at the same time, I can acknowledge that a man who spent 44 years somewhere else, whose family is there, and whose immigration case apparently contains a complicated legal history involving Jamaica, may have reasons for saying no, that we don't completely understand. Not pretending every decision is equally good. Not refusing to ask uncomfortable questions, but also not convicting people before we know the entire story. So I want you to answer this one. And I want Jamaicans at home and abroad to answer. Forget Alves for a moment. Put yourself in this position. You have spent 40 years in America. Your family is there. America removes you. You're sent to a small African kingdom. Jamaica contacts you and says, we are prepared to bring you home. But you believe there's still some possibility, legal, diplomatic, or otherwise, of eventually getting back to your family. Do you come home to Jamaica and pursue that hope from there? That's my thought. Or do you remain where you are because coming back to Jamaica might mean accepting that the American chapter of your life is over and I'm now left to make it harder? Suppose your previous American immigration protection was based partly on the argument that you could not safely be returned to Jamaica. Would you still come? Now, I am not sure, and maybe you're not either, as to what the answer is, but there is one thing about which I am much more certain. Whatever these men decided, Jamaica did not abandon them. After decades away, their country still came looking for them. Very proud of that. And maybe that's what patriotism should mean from the other direction too. Not simply what the citizen owes the country, but what the country owes the citizen. Jamaica essentially said, what happened in America, you're still Jamaican. Our door is open. But they said, no thanks. Maybe that's rejection. Maybe it was family, although the families in America beats me. Maybe it was legal strategy. Maybe it was fear. Maybe 40 years had simply changed the meaning of the word home. And that's where the story is really bounded. But perhaps that is precisely why the stories we're talking about too. Because eventually every Jamaican abroad has to answer a question that no passport can answer for them. Is Jamaica merely where you came from, or is Jamaica still home? Friends, drop your response in the chat and keep this conversation going. In the meantime, remember, out of many, one people, one nation, under God. See you next time.
Yeah, man. Jamaica. Listen now. This is the land where the sun shines bright. Morning glory, wake the hills at light. From the rivers to the ocean floor. Sweet Jamaica, this is my home. Where the people smile through joy and pain. Sunshine, laughing rain. No matter where in this world I roam. Oh, sweet Jamaica, this is my home. Jamaica is my home, my home. The place where my heart belongs. Black, green, gold, forever fly. Sweet Jamaica, reach the sky. Jamaica is my home, my song, where my roots grow deep and strong. No matter where my feet may roam, sweet Jamaica is my home. In the market and the country lane, strength of the people remain the same. From town to town, the love is shown. Sweet Jamaica, flesh and bone. Many live but the heart stay near, dreaming of home year after year. When the breeze call out your name, Jamaica, pull you